It says I'm live. I guess I'm alive. I guess I am alive. I'm still alive. Oh, I'm still alive. How does that go? You can't understand half of what he's saying anyway, except the part where he says I'm still alive. Wow. The Trend Aruga gang was tipped off by the government, so they weren't there when they were raided. Whose side is everybody on? Is it good to have gang members that all happen to be Venezuelan? I've got to learn that coincidences are just coincidences. And I will learn that. I will learn it. All right. Got 1,000 more Nixie. Well, I was just talking, Steve, to a friend of mine who has bought Nixie over the last several days. Of course, he's annoyed that he paid, I think he paid $290 and $270 something. Anyway, he's annoyed that he could have waited and gotten it cheaper. But he's making phone calls, trying to find out what's going on. And I told him, and as I will tell you, I think your instincts are good. I think buying Nixie, while it seems to be ignored and hated and all that, is good. I don't have any specific information on Nixie in terms of the last week or two, but I do believe that that volume that you saw October, 52 million shares in a day, I think that volume's coming back. So I think there'll be a trade in Nixie, and from 250, you know, if it goes to 10, that's 4 times your money. We also get so greedy with expecting these huge returns. You know, being up 20% is a good trade. All right. It's not the most exciting thing, but I want to talk about the news that came out on Logic. Logic is, unfortunately for me, it's my largest share position. And I don't know how it would equate in terms of value. I doubt it's worth very much. But anyway, they announced 2 days ago, Logic did, an update on med lab developments. They have a new organic feed additive for the health of home pets and farm animals, AVR BioVet TM, which is going to revolutionize animal health. Look, I'm going to give you my bias here, and I'm not going to notice for you anything about the CEO or the company at all, because there's no way to win. If you notice patterns, or if you notice that there might be something going on, you know. So I'm not going to notice patterns. I'm not going to notice patterns. But I believe this company is, and this is my bias, I believe this is a plant put in place by Aubrey Advisors' clients, Polar and the rest of them, who shorted CAUD, and shorted logic. I think it's the continuation of a setup, of a sting, of a robbery. On the other hand, I've gotten some feedback that there's many more deals coming and things are going to be good at logic. So we'll find out. I'm giving you my bias. I'm not optimistic, but others are. Other people who are very close to the situation are optimistic. All right, let me see if I can get him. Hello?
What's happening?
Not much. I got to get, if you want to go live, I've got to get this speaker on.
Oh, call me back then.
All right. Okay. I'll call you back.
Battery 30%. Connected to Bill's iPhone.
So I guess I'll go over the news after Ham. I'm going to try to get Ham on now. But anyway, so I have a negative skeptical viewpoint. Doesn't mean I'm right. Does not mean I'm right. But this is, you know, it looks like the CEO of this Med Labs is a highly intelligent guy. He looks like a polymath. He speaks, if I remember correctly, he speaks Russian, Hebrew, English, and Ukrainian as first languages. And I think he speaks some German and some Spanish and some one other language. So he's a pretty obviously smart guy. But I don't trust it. The company it's been around for several years. It's got 3 followers on LinkedIn. He has more. He's got 100. So I guess he's somebody, but I just think it's a setup. It's the coup de grace, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Let me see if I can get Ham to come on.
Hello.
Yeah, there. It should be working. It is working. It is working.
Hold on. In 2 weeks. Give me 1 second, Rowan. I just heard that someone just said there was news on that GBUX. I didn't see it till just now.
I called that guy, by the way, just so you know. But anyway, we're live, so you probably can't talk about it.
Well, I don't know. I just passed on, but you know, they said to give this guy a call, so I know. I hope whoever it is, you can get an interview on it. We can start.
I just left a message. I didn't speak to him.
No. We just want to get. We just want to get information about what's going on. That's all. I don't understand it. You don't understand it. No one understands, companies until we get in there. That's all.
That's right.
Most people didn't understand finger motion until we repeated it 9 million times, right?
What does finger motion do?
They make fingers. If you lose a finger, they make a new one. Anyway, William, I just wanted to give you, I was working on raising $80 million this morning, and I have a good friend I introduced to a big guy out of San Francisco. Hopefully I can raise it, and you'll have a nice
story to tell.
Well, we don't give a shit about the story. We're going to get your page. How's that one?
Oh, that'd be nice.
That's even better. So anyway, let's cross our fingers, and it's went past the first step. It's on to the second one. Let's see what happens there. All right, let's go, because we've been, I've been missing you. You've been missing me, whatever we've been doing.
My aim's getting better.
All right. So I told you about ROOT at 83. People asked about it. I said, listen, I can't recommend it. It's very dangerous, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Well, I've been telling you that the shorts are trying to cover this thing for a while.
Right.
And it just keeps moving higher. It hit a high of 112 today. It's up $1.93 again. And if you look at it, the volume is 200,000 shares, 240 to be exact.
Right.
This is a clear sign of shorts trying to cover and no more naked short, no selling on the other side. So these guys are doing a controlled buy-in. that means the short seller is tossing in the towel. Just like my friend Rob told us, William. When the shorts give up, the story's over with, the negative story, and this is how they start.
So how's Root going to trade then?
Just like it's doing, slowly keeps crawling up until they run out of, until they cover.
Right.
So you'll see these up big 120, drop to 65, back up to 100, back down. It went down to 80 something, and now it's on the road back up again. Hit a 112 today. And as you can see, this is the short trying to cover a controlled short. The short is controlling his own buy-in. He's taking a beating, but they're covering. That's what that is. I just want you to understand that look, because that's what you're seeing.
Right.
All right? There's no question that's what they're doing. DJT is different. Every time the stock gets up, they sell it down real fast, and they come back here and they're trying to cover it. And people will write the story that, DJT has rallied or whatever you want to say, but it really hasn't. It's down 10, and it's come back 2 or 3. So that's the short trying to say, oh, it's rallying back, but it hasn't rallied back. It only rallied back $2.50, $3. That's the short narrative with the newspapers. That's how they write it. They write it, oh, the stock is up and it's rallying back. It's all bullshit. This is just this has just become a trading stock. And this is how it looks with a trading stock. There's different ways. When a short loses control, that's when you're going to see finger motion just go from 2 to 100 to 200 to 500 to 1,000. That's when a short loses control. And that's what we're waiting for. These little jerks back and forth to 138, push it to 127, 130. That's them just trying to control it so we don't run them over. They're hoping for anything to happen to bail them out, but it doesn't look like there's any hope here for these characters. We know the company's doing the dividend. It's in the filings. We can all see it. It's coming. I don't know what day it is, but it's coming. So I guess, and the short thesis that the company's a piece of shit, like they always write. Oh, this company piece of shit. It's a pump and dump, all that bullshit. Once the company goes into the black, it's just going to keep going, and that
it'll never go back.
And the CEO has told us that it's on its way to doing that. So it's just a matter of time. These guys are sitting here, they're trapped. I posted about KNW. It's now got an N after it because they got kicked off the Amex. They gave it another letter. It's 9 cents. They're trying to rally it back. But the company has to reverse itself in order to survive. And the next stock is that GMGI. I told everyone you have to be insane to invest in that company. Not that the company's a bad company or the CEO, whatever. Once you take money from Lynn Partners, your money goes to overseas to the guys in Australia. You get wiped out. You get a tax loss. It's just the perfect crime for these guys. That's what they do. And that's what they're doing there, and that's what they're doing now. So again, there's different looks. Each stock has a different look, and you have to understand it. Root is a controlled buy-in, slowly grinding higher, and that's what that stock is about. So they're all different. They're all different looks. Do you have any questions, William?
When is the dividend coming for Finger?
If I knew, I'd tell you. I don't know. It's the company put in their filing. It's 100% going to happen. They told you they needed it for their, the audit. Listen, people, the most important thing to the company is the audit. The most important thing to us and the company is the dividend. But this company is driving business, it's driving growth, and they're adding in the dividend to actually spank the short sellers. So these are the things that are happening. So, I wish I could have it happen tomorrow. If Trump speaks, it's all over with. And I have to tell you, William, I spoke to someone that's pretty much in the know. My second contact besides the attorney generals, they all know about this. There's a bunch of attorney generals that are going after this case. And I believe that Trump, everyone, you're going to start seeing the press and the news come out against naked short selling. I've been told by two people that I trust a lot. And they're telling me it's coming. Hang in there, it's coming.
Cool.
So Trump, when he does speak, it's all over with. Stocks will start screaming, and that's what's going to happen. What else you got, William?
There's questions about, I guess Richard is interviewing that CEO for GTI.
Okay, I'm going to tell you one time. I met those people twice. I pitched them on to go to GTII. They are world class. You can do whatever you like. I don't know of any other deal that's coming in here. This is the one that I know of. I don't know if there's other ones. If anyone has one, good luck. But these guys are there for the shareholders. I believe some of them belong to stock, and I believe that GTI is going to become a great company once the merger is approved and they clean up everything else they have to do. This is going to be a nice little company, and I believe we'll get our short squeeze.
Okay.
I think that everybody's running around. Everybody's running around in a panic, talking about if they don't do this deal, there's nothing else here. So I don't know what everyone's wasting their energy about. He's a great guy. Let him tell the story. He's willing to talk. He's posted on Twitter. And, what else can I tell you? I don't need to be pitched on it. I believe in what they're doing, and let's see what happens. But I don't control any of it, so I don't, none of my business.
There aren't any other questions. A lot of hellos, a lot of well wishes, a lot of that, but no other questions.
That's it. Everybody's that quiet today. It's a day. Listen,
so much doubt, fear, and disappointment. I was relieved to watch the live stream with AI Versity.
Oh, someone did watch it.
A lot of people did. What if Roth comes out with a great report and finger squeezes before the dividend? Well,
the company doesn't have to do the dividend.
That would be a problem. That would be a problem that we'd be glad to have.
Listen, I put it up. There's many things that can happen that can start a short squeeze. Trump speaking, the dividend, the Roth report. Listen, number one, the Roth report is going to be north of $1.50 target. So the stock's $1.28. $1.50 is up. I told you the risk in this stock is up, not down. And that's when the company did the funding, which we all weren't thrilled about. But they now are fully funded, have the money to do their business that will drive revenue and drive growth. Roth knows the story. They had to sell it to their clients, and they didn't sell them and say, well, this company might or wish or what. These companies that get money have good business plans, even the ones that Lynn Partners killing. But Lynn Partners is a money-hungry scumbag, and they don't give a shit about the company. They don't invest the money; they just short it, and that's why they have these floors. There's no floor on the stock on their convertible debentures, so they have the right to convert at the lowest price. Yeah. So these guys have the right to convert at the lowest price, and that's what they do. They pushed it all the way down. I'm sure they converted some stock at 2 cents. It backed up to 9 cents. And they bought it, they shorted it, they bought it at the bottom. And if they're long any, they'll dump it at 9 cents or 7 cents. And the company is, in a mess.
When do you think the Roth Capital research will come out?
I have friends that work on the trading desk. They call it a Chinese wall between the two. The trading desk doesn't know. People don't know. The research arm is a different arm. The guy doesn't come out, the analyst, and say, I'm putting out a report tomorrow. Go buy the stock, They have to wait for the report to come out. Otherwise, it's Hindenburg, right? You're front running the report. They don't do that.
Right.
You know, that I'm sure that they will wait for the report. Listen, people, institutions need a report to buy stock. If you put out a report, let's say it was Mullen, when it was $4 or $5. If research didn't come out, firms couldn't buy it because when it did collapse, at least they have the report and can show that their investors, hey, I bought 2 million shares of the stock at $5. I lost $10 million. But I bought it due to the Goldman report or the Roth report or whoever report it is.
Right.
That's how it works.
So
And once the good thing about Roth doing a report, all the things we talk about, we will get an inside view from Roth because they've been inside the company. So we'll get an inside, idea about what's going on for real through Roth. Roth will tell you everything. So that's a great thing.
So do we really need market makers?
No, that's why there aren't any.
So why is there a rule for market makers? Why is there an exemption?
The exemption in market making, everyone who was a market maker has quit the business. You have a few firms left. Most people had quit. Market making was a monster business on Wall Street. But guess what? When you have a trading desk, you got to pay salaries. When you have a trading desk, guys lose money. So it was a game that they won sometimes and lost sometimes. The game has now changed where it's rigged, where the market makers that do exist, paying for order flow, just steal. So there's only a handful of these people. There's not thousands of them. Before there were thousands. Every trading desk from Smith Barney to Lehman to Goldman had market makers in a trading desk. They don't exist anymore. Because if you have about 50 guys on a trading desk, you got to pay them all $200,000 a year. You got to feed them lunch because they can't leave their desk. You got to buy them insurance. And if a guy makes $1 million one month and the next month he loses $2 million, Goldman takes the hit. No one wanted that risk. So they devised a system where the risk, you sell your order flow to Citadel. Citadel takes the risk on all the transactions. Goldman Sachs has no more employees, no office space, no overhead. And Citadel pays them for each trade. So each trade they do is profitable to Goldman, to Morgan, whoever it may be. There's no more risk. You're not going to make a lot of money. You won't make $1 million, but Goldman is happy saying, hey, we won't make $1 million on all our order flow. We'll make 700,000, but we have no risk, no expense. And that's the way the business went. I have 30 friends that were over-the-counter trading markets. They're all retired, doing nothing. If they ever stop this scumbag business, those people should come back to work. Because these are guys that can watch 30 stocks and make a market in it. And if they have a position in it, when someone wants to buy it, they can sell from their position. They can do things like that. But there's no one like that anymore. The only positions that exist are for anyone who buys the stock, they sell it short. That's it. That's the business. And when you sell it, they let that order go to the marketplace and you hit the bids and you knock it down. That's the business. When you buy it, your order never takes the offer. They just sell it short. And when you sell it, it's like a bullfight. Citadel will move out of the way, pull back the red cape, and let you hit the next bid. Lock it down. That's what Citadel does. They all do it. Virtue, all of them. No one's taking any risk. They don't want to own anything. And the game has changed in the last 2 or 3 years because of GameStop. People know that when you're on the wrong side of these transactions, you're getting killed, which is what should happen. And that's the game now. The game is that if you're on the wrong side and you're short and you get caught in a short squeeze, you can lose infinite. And that's and in the early days, everyone I knew would trade and would be careful about getting caught in something like that. Now it's like they don't even care. Someone shorts 241 million shares of finger motion. It's like there's not one fail to deliver in the stock. You see it trading. They don't buy back anything because once they start buying back anything, the stock is going to scream up. And that's what you're seeing. I'll give you an example. And the only reason I'm really talking about it is this GBUX. It was a new idea. I jumped on it. No big deal, whatever it is. Right? I don't own enough to change the world. But you can see that any stock that people want to get going or whatever it is they're buying or got a company started, whatever it may be, these guys just sell counterfeit shares. They basically know everything about the company in 1 minute. We don't even know what it's about. I don't even know what the hell they're doing because I haven't had time to figure it out. And that's why we tried to reach out to someone in the company to get William to speak with them. Just so we can get the details on it like we have in finger motion. But yet these guys selling stock, they sold 500,000 shares and they're short and they can't cover now. Think about that for a second, how stupid. That's because they're trained to just sell. Anything comes in to buy, sell it. That's what they do. And it's obvious because you can see it in GBUX. Now in GBUX, I hope these guys get roasted alive because the information's coming out of Goldman Sachs. You know what?
Talk about, somebody's asking about GBUX. When do you think it's going to run and what
I think it could really, I was told that 2025 is going to be a monster year for GBUX. That's what I was told. Things are coming out. I don't know what it all means, so we'll find out more. But the information came out of someone in Goldman to people in the street talk. Someone I know bumped and told me about it, and I told you about it. That was it. I have no more information. We know where it's coming from. And I have to tell you, guys, when you see a big player or name, for example, I'll just say it. Let's say it's, Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan or Goldman. When something originates out of those places, you know what? That means things are in motion. And when it does hit, it'll be a rocket. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what it's going to be. But in time, when it does come out, those guys don't fool around. They have the firepower. They have friends that are running money. When things are in place, I'm sure their buddies will buy the shit out of it when it goes. That's it. So I think I got in early. I told you it wasn't a day trade, and it's just it's a fundamental play. And when it gets going, it gets going. But we know there's 500,000 shares short. I've been counting it every goddamn day. And I'm looking at it saying, what buffoons will let anybody get short 500,000 shares? And if you look at the stock, they can't even sell it down because guess what? Somebody's shutting them down. Their boss, someone in the trading desk in that company, who's short the stock, is getting a call to shut it down. That's what it looks like to me. And at any given time, 500,000 to buy in that stock, I could see it between $5 and $7 in a blur. Everyone's seen it go when we were talking about it, 75 cents, right, William?
Mm-hmm.
If it starts going, watch how fast it goes when they try to cover it. Because there is no selling in it. There is no selling it because I'm sure the boys at Goldman and their buddies own the rest of it.
So if there are no market maker, who is trading in the market or pre-market on such volume?
Those are hedge funds back and forth.
Yeah, they just use the fig leaf of being a market maker to abuse Red Show.
William, if me and you each own 100,000 shares, so let's say a GBUX, so I'm just going to say, for example, I can call you up in the morning and say, William, I want to buy 20,000 from you. Sell it to me at $3. You sell it to me. And I say, William, the next day, can you do me a favor? Let's reverse the trade. I'll sell you 10 today and then 10 the next day. And this way I move it back and forth. So we don't have settlement failures coming after me. And that's how they do it. They just cross it back and forth. Those are the people doing it. I put up, Alpine had what, 100 LLCs? Who knows how many the Kramers had from GTII? These guys, Lynn Partners must have hundreds of LLCs. They call it, their lawyers, open up another LLC, open up another one, call it, whatever, XYZ1, XYZ2. And they just put in their accounts and they just keep moving them around. They spread it around. And that's what the complaint I had with the SEC with this new rule stating that were they going to file their short positions. Listen, any rules to try to fix what they're doing is all bullshit. The only one thing that works, settle the trades. Settle the trades. I don't give a fuck how much you're short. You have to show us how you're doing it. All right, you can't be anywhere. If you're selling stock and you're not delivering it, whether you borrow the shares or you make it shorted, you have to deliver something. End the conversation. Stock settlement. Don't fall for all the bullshit. Oh, we're gonna make them report their shorts. Don't get me wrong. They're putting pressure on these guys by doing this stuff. But the bullet that ends it, the silver bullet, is it breaks above and their margin gets them, fundamentals gets them. This bullshit about filing that they're short 5% is nonsense. I can open up 50 LLCs and be under the radar on all those names, right?
Right.
If I go over 1 million shares, I have to file. So I'm at 900,000 in each one of the accounts. And if I did 1 million shares and I did 900,000 and I did 100 of them, you're short. It's just ridiculous. They can hide 100 million shares in a second. They were all thieves. These guys are thieves. How many LLCs does everyone have? Does everyone have 200 LLCs? Does everyone have all these brokerage firms, all these accounts all over the street? No, they do.
Well, I don't know what G-Bucks is trading for. Somebody else is asking about it.
I have no idea where it is. I'm outside, just looking around.
210, it looks like. Well, actually, no, 230 to 236. I guess OTC Markets gets live bid and ask, but a delayed last trade. So looks like.
Listen, they're short and they can't cover. It's pretty easy to see it. My advice to anybody is you buy one share and watch it. Listen, not everybody has money to throw around. I didn't have that much money to throw around. I got 12,000 shares.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm just saying, but I had 75 cents. I should have bought the 100,000 shares. I didn't. I just bought that. I don't know much. I'm just following what they're doing. Listen, if Goldman and Morgan or whoever these big boys, once they get something, once they play, get used to what it looks like. This is what it looks like. They start out as small little things, and then they plug in big ideas into a company. Maybe they got mergers coming in. I don't know. And they just keep stuffing it in there. And you turn around and you say, oh, my God, the thing's $20. I don't know. That's how it's done.
Isn't today Ronald Reagan's birthday?
It probably is.
We have that going for us, I guess.
That's going. So anyway, finger motion. We're going to get this Roth report. We're going to get the dividends coming out. If Trump speaks, we're going to get them. The company's fundamentals, they're 100 times better because they got $5 million that they can roll into that truck project. All right. We know the data business is just getting warmed up. There's 100 positive things coming out of the finger motion. And these idiots keep trying to hold it down because they know if it goes up and gains momentum, they're dead. And I'm a firm believer in buying them when they don't go. When they're going sideways like this. If you'd listened to me about DJT, it was going 30, 30, 30 and a half, 31, boom, 32 and a half. So if you're trading, those are the signs you look for. These guys, the short sellers need volatility. Remember that. Volatility is how they live. No volatility, they're dead. Is there anything else, William?
Has the Finger CEO said there will be a Roth report or not?
Yes, he said it in the video. I put it up on Twitter 65 times. Look at William's site, William on YouTube. You have the report that you did with Martin, and the last one you had a split screen. And the CEO said as soon as the audit's done, it'll be out. Excuse me, the Roth report is coming. He said it in the interview. I'm talking about the dividend for a second. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's right there.
G-Bucks is Benjamin bought it at 175. Okay, I see. Kudakai says the bid is 251, the ask is 253. Pretty amazing.
Listen, the short seller for 500,000 shares, if you did buy it at 175, if you wanted to sell some of your stock, and people, this is not, you can do whatever you like. This is not, what do you call it, stone hands, diamond hands, whatever the hell they call that. If you bought 1,000 shares at 175, you sell 100 at three and a quarter, 100 at 375, 100 at $4, and you hold on to 700 shares and you get it for free. That's what I look to do. I'm going to try to do it with my trial, but let's see what happens. I told you about Kodak the other day. I told you we've been in Kodak for a while. I've been selling stock from 775 up. We had about 600,000 shares. We blew it out of it, selling it. It went over 8 today. We bought it always down. We bought some at 770.
You were talking about that for a long time, and it finally worked. That's great.
Yeah, it just takes a long time. What are you going to do? I know it's over 1 billion shares short. I don't know how. I was with William in Elise Stefanak's office pitching them about it.
Yeah.
It just takes time. Again. And everyone says, oh, the company's dead, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's not dead. And if the company does anything positive and they settle the trades, the whole city of Rochester turns around. There's people that own stock in Eastman Kodak. It was a Dow component. Imagine it comes back, it goes to $50, $100, and people can sell something that was worthless, and all of a sudden they walk out with 50, 100,000. They can pay off their homes, buy a new car. It just makes the economy go. And, this is what it's about. William, I have to go to the dentist. I have a loose cap. I have to go get it glued in because otherwise I'm going to swallow this stupid thing. But my appointment's at 3:20, so I have to get going. I'm 10 minutes away.
All right.
Anything else, or I'm going to run out? Is anything else?
I mean, you don't want to go around with a loose cap.
What is that, bullshit? Who's saying to drill it and make it hurt? I heard someone say that, William.
They're just wondering which cap is loose.
The back left.
The one on top of your head, or the?
No, that one I need to cover my bald head, my hat. Anyway, listen, everybody, I have to run. I apologize for to have this disappointment. Thank you.
Good luck. All right.
Thank you.
Call ended.
This wall is very cold, so sorry. I don't know why it's so cold. I guess because it's brick. I was talking about Logic. Somebody asked about Logic. I was talking about it before Ham called in. The news is that Logic now has a veterinarian division, which is part of MedLab's acquisition. It's called AminoMedic Limited, and they're launching the AVR BioVet, a cutting-edge product designed to maximize growth potential and improve the overall health of animals. It's called Growth Max, a cutting-edge product designed to maximize growth. They repeated themselves, which leads, I'm really skeptical. I think the press releases are cut and paste. The company doesn't have much of a website. There's no followers. I really think this is the end of the sting operation, and it's Polar Hedge Fund and it's Chadron and Aubrey Advisors and the lawyers. And there's no commonality between those people. They're just all the ones involved in criminal activity, just happen to be in criminal activity by chance. But anyway, it says AVR BioVet features nanoparticles of copper, a blend of essential amino acids, vitamins, and probiotics. We understand that poultry producers are facing unprecedented challenges, said Mark Litvak, Chief Medical Officer of Logic and founder of Amino Medic Limited. AVR BioVet provides a comprehensive solution to support healthy growth, improve feed conversion, and enhance the overall well-being of animals, making them more resilient in the face of potential health threats. This is just saying the same thing over and over again. I think it's crap, but I hope I'm wrong. I'm hearing from people close to the story that there's more good news to come. But to me, this is just slap and paste, try to get something out there that looks legitimate while they reverse split the company and Polar walks away with $100 million. I don't know. They have some pictures of chickens. AVR BioVet has undergone rigorous testing in collaboration with various esteemed organizations worldwide, including Israel's Agriculture Research Organization. That's what it says. I'm not getting involved in any observations at all. In an experiment involving numerous pig farms conducted by the biotech group of companies, it was found that 10% early born piglets normally would not survive actually did. Logic is looking to file additional patents on AVR BioVet and seek FDA and USDA all necessary approvals. The launch of AVR BioVet comes at a critical time. Recent outbreaks of bird flu. The launch of AVR BioVet marks a significant milestone for Logic, demonstrating our commitment to diversifying into high-growth sectors that deliver tangible value to our shareholders. This is just crap. I hope I'm wrong. They have some pictures of cows and sheep and pigs. MedLab manager Daniel Vinacour, current interim COO, says it just repeats the exact same thing, literally. Logic has initiated a search for its next CEO. Brent Sun will be transitioning from his role as CEO. The company is grateful for Mr. Sun's leadership and contributions and wishes him well. About MedLab Essentials. MedLab Essentials harnesses the power of cell and gene therapy to treat human disease. MedLab Bio is an advanced biotechnology company with a unique approach to the development of cell-based therapy products for various human indications. The company's expertise aligns with the industry shift toward more accessible off-the-shelf therapies and expansion into life extensions. Then they have a about Logic paragraph that talks about Logic being a digital acquisition, digital advertising company. I'm telling you guys, this is cut and paste. It's to look good so the criminals keep shorting, and then they'll do a reverse split and they'll bail out each other. And they're all criminal with each other just by chance. So anyway, that's Logic. Count me as skeptical. I don't believe in it, but other people do. So let's just keep track of it. I can be wrong. I don't have any access to information. So I could just be the sourpuss who's wrong. And I hope I am wrong. G-Bucks 222. I don't have Charles Schwab. Do you think Trump is going to say, what do you think Trump is going to say to make shorted stocks go? I didn't get a chance to ask him. He's talking to somebody. I would guess they would ask for settlement of trades. I'm wondering if Ham ever calls out his contacts when they give him bad information, like the Roth report was coming out last week. Okay, so Bill, there's a rule on Wall Street. It's called full disclosure, Reg FD. And if you have material information, and material means that if an investor knew that information, she would decide to either to buy or sell the stock based on it. You can't disclose that information without making a press release to the world. So if you believe the rumors and whispers and the chat that go on behind the scenes should be held accountable and called out when they're wrong, that's like the rumors that Doreen DeGoosh is pregnant in high school, and it turns out she's not. Who are you going to blame? It's rumors, it's whispers, it's talk. I don't know who he's talking to at Roth Capital. I would imagine that if the person he's talking to at Roth Capital actually knew when the research report was coming out, that person would have broken the law to state it specifically. To say something like, well, it looks like they're going to get something out. It could come out this week. It could come out next week. That's all right, because that's just reading tea leaves. But if you have a specific and you want it held accountable, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't know what to tell you. Uh, if something could happen to stop the naked shorting of finger other than the dividend, that won't stop it. And the share could be bought in before the dividend. Might be better having the dividend create an issue. The shares, I guess, could be bought in before the dividend. Look, I guess you're right. I guess you're right. I think what makes finger motion go up is as the story clarifies, and maybe the Roth Capital report will do that, as earnings coalesce around one of their engines, if I can call it that, whether it's their insurance reselling, if it's their data arm, if it's their cloud computing, if it's their C2 vehicles, if it's their G5, whatever you call that thing, 5X marketing of advertising, whatever it is, once it becomes clear that that arm is growing, it's providing revenue, cash flow, and earnings, which are predictable and constant and hopefully growing, all of a sudden you're going to see different prices in finger, higher prices, I think. And then you can start to see perhaps covering of failed to deliver shares. Hoping for a trigger of a squeeze from a dividend, or a trigger of a squeeze from a comment from Donald Trump, or a trigger of a squeeze from a research report. I don't think that's really, it's all possible, don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's the way, why you should be in finger. You should, if you do, you should believe that the company has a story that is starting to really become clear. And maybe as soon as fourth quarter earnings, we get that idea. Maybe as soon as the Roth Capital report, we get that idea clarified. And then we go from there. If you're looking for short squeeze plays, the king of all short squeezes is silver, physical silver. That's the king of it all. You don't have to count on a CEO. The CEO doesn't need an attaboy, great job, sign up with this company out of the Middle East, trust us, they're legit. None of that. The king of all short squeezes is silver. But if you don't want to do that, I think you could sprinkle your investment across several stories you've heard. I don't know anything about G-Bucks other than what Ham has said. Nixie, possibly ZJYL and GDC have another run in them. I don't know. They're Chinese shell companies. This next strip is down today. I think the news indicates that something might be coming there. My favorite is Railtown, RLAIF. Not so much that it's a squeeze play, but that it's a value creation story. They went through 4 years of R&D, and now they're selling their product. It appears to be revolutionary and proprietary, obviously, but the first mover. And all you need is an establishment of that value to get a leap in price. Maybe that's what I think. But chasing short squeezes is a mug's game. The last 2 or 3 years has shown us that it's nearly impossible to predict when a short squeeze comes, to buy at the right price, sell at the right price. Looking back on it, we should have bought Finger, sold at 8, sold at 6, sold at 5, bought it back, and done it 2 or 3 times. We should have bought GTII, sold it at 8, sold it at 6. We should have bought Vocal and gotten out immediately. We should have bought, I don't know how MULN traded, but anyway, all of these stories gave us a chance to get out at 20%, 50%, 100% gains. We should have just taken them over and over and over again instead of looking for the all or nothing squeeze. If we had just gotten in, rode the wave, had ridden, if we would have ridden the wave a little bit and gotten out, and done it over and over again, we'd be in a better position than just sitting waiting for one big enchilada squeeze. But anyway. No ham today? Yeah, no ham, Jack, no ham. Any new tips? Yeah, if you like the girl, ask her out. Once Cash Patel is in place, then we can see action against the MMTLP situation. They had a chance to resolve it before jail time was on the table. Too late now. What's the jail time, Richard? Is it because FINRA used a rule that existed? Is it because they have proof that the criminals got MMTLP to trade? There, I would believe you. But where are the criminals? I can't tell you where I think they are because it's too coincidental. And I cannot be accused of noticing coincidences. I'm just too stupid to see coincidences or patterns. So I don't know. I don't know where the criminals are. They're somewhere overseas. Are they going to get caught? Are they going to go to jail? I doubt it. But you might know something I don't know. You may know something I don't know. I think Fidelity might be in trouble, and that GameStop might be in, no, that trade station may be in trouble. So you may be right about that. You may be right about, but I don't know where everybody expects the legal fees to come from. Lawyers were born exceptional, and they graduated law school, so they are exceptional. And when they spend time talking or thinking or studying, they deserve to be paid because they are so exceptional. And that's what happens. Who's going to pay for the attorneys to make sure they go to jail? Gibson Dunn works for the SEC and works for the Kramers. Oh, sorry, I should say the Smiths. Mobius, Dorcas, and Dubious works on both sides because that's where the money is. Lawyers just go where the money is. That's all they do. There's no moral campaign. I'm being negative today. No, you can't predict a short squeeze, but you can get into a stock that has a fundamental basis, that has a value that you can. Some of these stocks, for example, GTII, had no value, none. It had zero value. They were trying to put value into it, but that got rejected by the FINRA and the SEC. Finger had value, but then the debate is, what is the value, right? I don't know, a company like MULN, did it have value or did it just have an idea? I think it had value, but then the goal of the criminals is to change the per share value. The per share value. So you can start with a value of 50 million, and by the time the Smiths over at Geneva Roth Holdings, or the Smiths over at Lind Partners, or the Smiths at Yorkville start working with the Smiths out of Germany and elsewhere around the world, and they criminally destroy the stock price. Once the CEO needs to come back to the Smiths for capital, they sell shares at a discount under a toxic formula written up by the lawyers named Smith, and the 50 million might grow to 150 million, but the number of shares outstanding expands by 10 or 20 times, so the per share value goes down. Only a jerk would blame someone else for their trading decisions. I don't know. Depends on the person. I think if you trade, if you're given information that you trust, that such and such might happen within the next 2 or 3 weeks, and it doesn't happen for 3 months, do you have a right to blame that source of information, or is it your own fault? I don't know. I think it's an open question. I think as a class, as a group of traders, we have a right to be upset with Gary Smith at the SEC, Adina Smith at NASDAQ. We have a right to be upset with these people for not enforcing settlement, not making sure that there is a mechanism for price discovery. We have a right to be upset that the hedge funds can sell into existence, if you believe the Anson Fund story, trillions with a T. That's T with trillions. T. I don't think you know how big a trillion is. It's bloody big. Trillions of dollars in 1 year sold into existence, and no one enforces settlement. I think you have a right to get upset and blame someone else for that loss, blame the regulators. So I don't know. Well, there are no guarantees, but that is bumper sticker crap, so that you blame yourself and others blame themselves for trading in the US markets. You have a right to expect honest markets. You have a right to that. But it's all been corrupted. And if you notice patterns of that corruption, you get in trouble for completely unrelated issues. You are your own decision maker of your own investments. Yes. If you buy into Bernie Madoff's scheme, do you blame yourself or do you blame Bernie Madoff or do you blame the middleman or do you blame the market makers? If you buy into the tulip bulb mania, do you blame yourself or do you blame the advisors that told you? I don't know. I don't know. Myself, I always blame myself for my trades. I don't blame anybody else. I don't blame him. I don't blame the company. If I get information from somebody on a trading desk, which doesn't happen anymore, and it works, I'll be happy with them. But if it doesn't work, hey, I took the information and traded on it. You were either in it for the ride or the long, yeah. I'm being negative. We like happy. Well, yeah, I don't feel all that upbeat. I don't find you men. I'm sure that sounds cozy. I'm sure that all sounds cozy, but I don't find you men all that attractive. I don't know what this point is. Meyer Lansky was more honest in the numbers game. My understanding is he was honest. From what I think I read one book that touched on it, but then just, documentaries and whatever. I think he was viewed as being scrupulously honest. So I guess that's your point. That's a long-winded answer about waiting for a short squeeze. Yeah, my answers can be long-winded. I guess the lesson, Bill, that I am pointing out, I didn't do it, but with finger motion, we had a chance. If you bought it at 1, you bought it at 2, you bought it at 3, you bought it at 4. You could have doubled your money, tripled your money, and gotten out. But we all, including me, believed the story that it was going to run. And I think it was in the middle of running. I actually do believe that there was a squeeze going on. And then the criminals have access to a lot of money, a lot of investment bankers, a lot of CEOs, and they engineered a popping of the balloon of the squeeze, and it worked. But whatever happened. All I'm saying is, if we stopped going for the roses and started accepting, hey, we won the sprint, we didn't win the derby, but we doubled our money. Quick, take it. And then the next story comes on. We double our money, triple our money. Quick, take it. And we're not waiting. Anyway, that was my only point. FINRA is colluding. Yeah, well, I don't notice that at all. Don't notice that at all. Can Bondi speak about the shorts? I really think that if the failure to delivers and the lack of settlement is treated as a global issue. What I mean, I'm not talking about worldwide, I'm talking about the entirety of the market, we're not going to get anywhere. I don't think you think it through enough. And I'm not picking on you, just we don't think it through. But if the US markets are larger than they really are by a factor of 10 or a factor of 20 or a factor of 30 because of hypothecation, rehypothecation, somebody, if Mrs. O'Leary owns 1,000 shares of Exxon, her broker can tell her to put it on margin and they can lend that out. The person that borrows that 1,000 shares can then lend that 1,000 shares out. That person can borrow the shares and lend that 1,000 shares out. That's one way. The other way is once Mrs. O'Leary's stock is there, 1,000 shares, the trading desk can hypothecate it and rehypothecate it and rehypothecate it without regard to the actual existence of the shares. How? Well, they have the F3 button. They have the F3 button. Boom, we think we can locate it, lend it out. Boom, you're coming down to having no shares to lend. Hit the F3 button. All of a sudden, you've got shares to lend. So if the market has been expanded by counterfeit shares on a multiple even as small as 10x, which is what the commercial banking market apparently runs on, although it's probably 100x. If Pam Bondi or Donald Trump says we're going to settle all the trades, you're going to crash the United States stock market. And then the world's largest stock market suddenly becomes the world's third largest or fourth largest stock market. Do you think Donald Trump's going to do that? I don't. I think Donald Trump needs to tell his SEC, and perhaps it's Pam Bondi, perhaps it's the Justice Department, I'm trying to think where the FBI is. I guess it's under her or it's under the FBI director. Anyway, it could be the FBI. I think they need to go after the small stocks because there's nobody protecting us. With the bigger companies, there are big boys and girls protecting on their longs that offset the shorts. But anyway, I'm just repeating myself. No need to question him. Just sell and move on, right, Bill? Jack, are you a dick? Or are you a legitimate person? Because if you're a dick, I'm gonna ban you. I'm shocked finger is down today. Okay, thanks for sharing your shock. Thanks for sharing your shock. His finger over or something? No, it's not over. If you listen to Ham thinks it's gonna, to paraphrase him, go to the moon. It's not over. I don't know what you're talking about. But Billy, I don't, if you're a real person, I guess Rod Stewart had to sing Maggie May over and over and over again for 50 years. I can repeat the same finger motion line over and over again. He just got paid a lot for it. Finger Motion, Billy, is a company, it's a Chinese company. Finger Motion has revenue, to my memory, of approximately 30 million a year, 35 million a year. It's very low margin revenue. It's lumpy. In a given quarter, it could come from text messaging versus top up, or the other way around. So it's not predictable. They're in the top up business, which is not a premier business to portfolio managers. They're in the text messaging business and the business messaging business, the marketing business, both SMS and then 5G. They're in that. Those are two different categories. They have agreements with Pacific Life Re, Munich Life Re. They have laboratories. They have scientists who are being paid for largely by the insurance companies. But the whole goal is to use the data which has come from the top-up business and the relationships with the telecommunications companies, so that Finger Motion becomes the conduit to get two of the world's largest insurers into the world's largest economy, which ironically is also nearly a virgin economy in terms of insurance. So they're hoping to be prime movers in fire insurance, health insurance, life insurance, home insurance, automobile insurance, motorcycle insurance, and on and on and on and on. French horn insurance. But that is progressing very slowly for most of you because it's not updated. They haven't had the breakthrough yet. For people in the business, they're making pretty good progress. But these are men and women that are used to making 5-year plans, 10-year plans, years. But anyway, that goes on apace. They're also occasionally, they sell their their cloud computing capabilities to corporate clients. And they get a big injection of revenue from that. It's unpredictable. It's a one-off. It sometimes happens. It sometimes doesn't. Most of the time, it doesn't. They also are a toll booth for people using their phones to shop online. This is small revenue, but it's repeatable revenue, and they don't have to invest a lot in it. They also bought the so-called Netflix of Southeast Asia. That may or may not be growing. That may or may not be meaningfully adding to the bottom line. I haven't heard recently. And then finally, they have secured this contract which is a little bit bricks and mortar as opposed to Ethernet, but they've secured this contract to supply us exclusively what they call the C2 rapid response vehicles and data for all the local governments in China. We know about 2 vehicles they built out, they told us about. We're still waiting to find out more. That's Finger Motion. So, Billy, is that over? Is Finger Motion over? No. That's 6 or 7 different areas where Finger Motion can grow. Finger Motion can have a booming business. But what do you think, Billy, when you think of finger motion? Do you think insurance? Do you think telecommunications? Do you think big data? Do you think drones and SUVs that are first responders? Do you think Netflix? Do you think toll booth for online shopping? Do you think SMS? Do you think text messaging? Do you think top up? What do you think, Billy? You don't. You don't think. You have no idea the value of finger. My point is that finger motion needs to become something that can be easily described. What is Netflix? It's a streaming company. Ah, okay. What is Railtown AIF? It's an AI company that allows for rapid definition and improvement and development of software, saving time and millions of dollars. It's it's AI. What is I'm trying to think of a different stock. What is Root? It's an insurance company. What is MULN? It's an electric vehicle company. What is MMAT? It's a state-of-the-art experimental company. That's a tougher one to describe. What's Torchlight? It's an oil and gas company. What is Finger? What is finger motion? It's a Chinese company. All right. What does it do? Well, it does. It's got contracts with 3 telecommunications companies in China to sell top up. Well, top up doesn't sound exciting. Top up just gives a 4% margin or something like that. Well, it doesn't only do top up. It does big data. Oh, really? How are they monetizing big data? Well, they haven't really monetized big data yet. Well, how are they going to monetize big data? Well, they've got arrangements with 2 large insurance companies, Pacific Life Re and Munich Re. Ah, well, are they monetizing? No, they're in the R&D phase of that, and they're moving close to okay, that sounds good. Let me know when that works out. Well, they're doing more. They sell their access to their cloud computing. Oh, they do. What's the program for that? What are the annualized revenues? How are the revenues growing for that? How do they get their customers? Well, it's mostly just one-off here and there. They do it on an ad hoc basis. All right, well, let me know when they systematize that. Well, they do more than just that. They also sell text messaging. Oh, really? Well, that's a low margin business. Yeah, they do it. They don't do it every month. They don't do it every quarter. But when they need it, when the top-up business falls out, they can turn on the text messaging business. Well, that doesn't sound predictable. But all right, I mean, it's interesting, but that's 4%, 5% margin. Well, they do more than that. They now are going into rich content messaging using 5G, and they can charge more, and they're getting higher margins. Ah, well, that sounds good. What are they doing to do that? Well, they're advertising. They're growing that business. Is it growing? Is it repeatable? What is the stat? Well, it's really actually kind of new because the 5G is just rolling out province by province in China, but they expect big things from it. Okay, well, come back to me when that's going. What else they did? What else did they do? Well, they just got this big contract with the government to build out first responder vehicles. Really, how many did they do? Two vehicles. Wow. Two vehicles. That's fantastic. How much do you think they're making per vehicle? We don't really know, but it's got to be thousands of dollars at least. Yeah, times two. That's amazing. Sign me up for that. Where can I buy stock? Billy, all of these things are developing. They're growing. Finger is not over. But if you're telling me that each of these stories are company makers right now, I'm going to tell you, you got to wait. And we have waited. We have waited. Now, where I'm positive on Finger is, I think, and again, it's the same old story, Billy, but I guess you just tuned in. I've interviewed the CEO twice. There's other guys out there, men, that have interviewed the CEO, and you can find their videos on YouTube and elsewhere. Martin Shen, the CEO of Finger Motion, has made it clear that he is optimistic that Finger Motion's fourth quarter earnings, which is for him the year 2025, ends at the end of February. That's also the end of the fourth quarter. He believes that Finger Motion will turn earnings positive in the fourth quarter. This will be a milestone of really an important nature, particularly if once Finger Motion turns earnings positive, those earnings are predictable and they're growing and they can be extrapolated over the next full year. You've got a whole different ball game. So fourth quarter earnings have the potential to make a huge change in the story of Finger Motion. But right now you have a company that's doing $35 million in revenue which is lumpy, revenue which is very hard to describe where it's coming from. What multiple should be given on that revenue, Billy? I don't know. Okay, that's the fundamental story. Then you have Finger Motion as a short squeeze story. I saw Finger Motion. I saw the people from Lynn Partners and their clients short, I assume it was they, short 100 million shares when the stock was $8, $9. 100 million shares in 10 days. It was on the FINRA website. Now, there's guys that say, you can't listen to that. There's systems in place. You're not seeing the buying back. All right. But I saw it, 100 million shares. I believe there's a large short position, a large failure to deliver position in Finger. So the question is, what's going to cause those shares to be covered? Is it going to be compliance? My answer is no. Is it going to be FINRA? My answer is no. Is it going to be the SEC? My answer is no. Is it going to be Adina Smith over at NASDAQ? My answer is no. Other people have other answers. What I do expect for Finger is as the story is defined, as the revenue, cash flow, and earnings can be made more clear, as they are shown to be repeatable, as they're shown to have a high margin, as they're shown to be growing, I think then you have a stock that institutions are interested in owning, that possibly family offices and wealthy investors are interested in owning for its long-term prospects. When that happens, the stock becomes maybe not $1.50, maybe it becomes, I'm making it up, a $5 stock, and it stays there. Once it stays there, the Smiths over at Lynn Partners and the Smiths who run the 4 hedge funds that are the clients of the Lynn Partners will stop shorting non-existent shares. They'll stop selling stock that doesn't exist. Why? Because then it's a loser's game. But until then, I don't see any forced buying in of finger motion. That's my view. I don't think the story is over, Billy. And I don't think if you're working for the shorts that you're out of the woods, because what could happen for finger motion that could be a surprise? The Roth Capital Research Report could take, people could read it and go, oh my gosh, that's what finger is. The Roth Capital Group could bring in institutional buying. We don't know. The C2 contracts could grow rapidly. We don't know. Finger motion might raise money by borrowing money rather than tapping the equity markets with the guys at Lynn Partners. We don't know. The insurance contracts that they've been working on, they're in either phase 2 or phase 3 of that scientific laboratory process. If they come up with a product that they can market, that can change everything overnight. There are ingredients there for finger motion to surprise the short sellers. My opinion is that the short sellers cover when they start losing money. That's my opinion. It has to be a surprise and they're losing money. Otherwise, the Smiths at Lynn Partner are backed by the Smiths at 4 hedge funds. They control the Smiths at the regulatory agencies, and the Smiths offshore are working in cahoots. The oblivious broker dealers that you do business with and I do business with, they haven't a clue. So Billy, I don't know what you mean by is finger over or something. I don't think finger is over. In fact, I think finger is cheap right now. But will you have to wait? Will you have to wait 6 months? Will you have to wait 2 years? Or could it happen in 6 weeks? That's the financial question that's going to make some people money and other people are going to lose. Now, if you listen to Ham, and I got to tell you, Ham knows more about what goes on with short sellers and traders than I ever will know. I see it much more from this side of the trading desk, whereas he's on the trading desk. Ham thinks it could happen at any time, and the buy-in could be explosive at any time. And I don't have enough to tell you that he's wrong. I really don't. But if I were buying finger motion right now, I'd be buying it in the context of a management team with a good group of investors who have 6 or 7 legs to stand on, all of which are solid, and they have the potential to grow this company into something really special over time. I would acknowledge to myself that it's a Chinese company, and in the United States, that carries some risk. I would acknowledge to myself that the company hasn't really proven to Wall Street's satisfaction yet what it is. But they might be on the verge of it. That's why maybe it's cheap. And I would acknowledge to myself, I'm buying it because I like the story. I like the company. The squeeze could happen at any time, but I'm happy owning it at $1.50 because I think it's a $5 stock. Yeah, the research report from Benchmark valued finger motion at $5. It was written by, I don't have it right in front of me, but it was written by two young analysts. And the positives, so now what, on that report, to me, they described in full the potential of the insurance side. And to my memory, they also discussed the data aspect of it. These are two areas that can be enormous. SNOW, just a data company. Just look at the valuation that it has. That was all good. The other positive, or another positive of that research report, is that Finger Motion really has not issued additional shares. Remember, the modus operandi of Jeff Smith over at Lynn Partners, he's paid and gets kickbacks from hedge funds run by Smiths, and the lawyers are Smiths as well, and Jones. They trained Jeff Smith, and they cover his rear end to go find companies through Benchmark like Finger Motion. They sign them up, and so Finger Motion comes in, takes money at a discount, and immediately the four hedge funds start selling stock that doesn't exist in contravention of all rules, all securities laws. They break the law on a massive scale. And it works. Why does it work? There's no enforcement of the rules. Nobody goes to jail. When the company needs to raise more money, that they go by the stock price, which is, I don't know if you can say it's fake, but it doesn't reflect a fair marketplace to determine the price. So money is raised at a massively discounted price from the first offering. Then the company is on Adina Smith's NASDAQ. She doesn't care. When the price goes down, it's in, according to the contract the CEO signed, it's in default. Therefore, the solution is a reverse split, which helps out those hedge funds. And it goes on in story after story after story after story. In the case of Finger Motion, the CEO already did the damage because he took the advice from Benchmark and he went to the Smiths at the Lynn Partners, and they went to the Smiths at their hedge funds who sold stock that doesn't exist, and they got the backing of their law firm, Dubious Noam and Howe. And it worked. But the one thing the CEO did he hired the guy out of Texas, and they bought back their note. And the CEO is committed to never doing a toxic convertible transaction again. But guess what? He still needs to go to Wall Street. And the Smiths at Ross Capital gave him a deal at $1.50, which was a full $1.25 lower than where the stock was trading just a week or so before. Roth Capital's clients sold the stock down and gave the company's own money because the system is corrupt. But he didn't sign a toxic convertible note. He didn't sign a deal with tranches, but he did sign a deal with warrants on it. And the stock went almost under $1, and it's still struggling to get back to 150. I'm hopeful that Roth Capital will get it back to 150, but we have to be honest. It's been a month. It's been more than a month. Where the hell is Roth Capital? Is Roth Capital part of the short sellers? Is Roth Capital's allegiance to the Smiths at the hedge funds? I don't know. That's an open question. It's an open question. But the good news, so now what? The good news is that Martin Shen did not issue a lot of new shares. He increased the outstanding shares from, I think, 52 million to 58 million fully diluted. And that's attractive. That's attractive. So based on your observation there, that research report at $5 target, the company has grown. The company has moved further along in its R&D phases, and the company has this new contract that didn't exist before. So that $5 target could be achievable still. So you make a good point. But guys, stop seeing what you want to see. Wall Street is owned by these people who are criminals, and it's just coincidental. I'm not going to point out any patterns about it because those patterns don't exist. It's just a bunch of criminals who, over the last 15 years and longer, have purchased Congress, purchased the regulators, had legislation put into place. They own the lobbyists. They juice the revolving door both to law firms and to the hedge funds and Wall Street firms. And they enhance the movement of shares offshore through shady vehicles and groups. And they promote and sponsor guys like Lynn Partners in Yorkville to get these funds going. And it's all by chance. It's all by chance. It's just grown up by chance. If you don't see that that's what's going on, and you want to believe that Donald Trump is going to make a pronouncement and it's going to change all overnight, I think Donald Trump's going to end the war in Ukraine on the first day in office. I think Donald Trump is going to stop the genocide of the Palestinian people. I think Donald Trump is going to make sure that humankind is ready for the fact that we're now approaching 500 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere and going higher. And that's just science. It's going to heat the globe. Guys, there's no magic out of this. There's no magic. Holy shit, Bill. Glad you're not the spokesman for Finger after your response to Billy. Okay, Bill, Michael, I'm just going to come on here and lie to you. I'm going to pump up the stock and just tell you what you want to hear. What do you want to hear, Bill? What do you want to hear about Finger? What do you want to hear? You tell me and I'll say it to you. You don't have to pay me. I'll just tell it to you. Why should we look at facts? Why should we try to analyze what's going on? Why don't we just pretend and assume everything is glorious? Look, I have told you that I do believe there's a large short position in Finger Motion. There's a large short position in Torchlight. There's a large short position in GME. There's a large short position in stock after stock after stock. Do they squeeze? Well, Billy, my concern is what the shorts really do is they move the trades offshore. And once the trades get to Europe, there's no records kept anymore. There's no records. So one of Ham's bedrocks, which I believe, I mean, Ham's right. Ham is right. Every trade on Wall Street exists. And it can't be made to unexist. But if you move things off to Europe, they don't keep any records. They don't keep any records. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't think SEC will be business as usual. I do. I think it'll be business as usual. Trump involved. Trump is not in on the okay, guys. Let's just look at the commercial banking system. It evolved over 400 or 500 years. It really started to be simplistic when gold was held in the Medici Bank and they wanted to take buying power with them to Amsterdam. They could put gold in the back of their carriage, but the carriage would get held up and the gold would be stolen. So what they did is create basically script that said this is exchangeable for, I don't know, 1 million florin on the Medici Bank. And it initially would be 1-for-1 for the gold held in the vault at the Medici Bank. But then over time, and so they would take that thing, you could hold it in your wallet. It could be wired. I guess they had I don't know when the clickety clackety things came in, telegraph. Maybe they didn't have telegraphs then, but so you had script, and you probably could have ways of duplicating that script so it wasn't strictly a bearer bond. Maybe it was in your name, maybe there were documents. I don't know how that all worked, but you didn't have to carry a ton of gold in your wagon. You just carried some pieces of paper in your wallet, and they're in your name. So if someone stole them, I guess they couldn't be used. I don't know how that worked. But anyway, the Medicis noticed that on that million florin, the gold sat in the vault and nobody came for the gold. No one ever came for it. That script just traded out there and got subdivided. They went to Amsterdam and bought tulips, and then the person with the script bought a South Sea bubble, whatever that was, or they bought some land in Mississippi. Whatever. They never came back for the gold. So what the Medicis did, they started writing script, not 1 for 1, but they wrote script 2 for 1, 4 for 1, 5 for 1, and eventually settled on 10 for 1. So the money supply, in essence, a lot of that money's created out of thin air, as I just described, became 10 to 1 versus the reserves. Well, if Donald Trump came in and said, you know what, we're going to stop that, and I'm going to declare that the reserves have to be 1 for 1, the whole system would collapse. And in fact, if he said the system should be 10 for 1, I think the whole system would collapse, because I think we're closer to 90 to 1 in commercial banking. He's not going to do that. Well, now you're asking that he comes in to failure to delivers in short selling in the U.S. equity markets, settle the trades in DJT, settle the trades in Tesla, settle the trades in Apple, settle the trades in Bank of America. It would contract our market by at least 10 to 1, at least. Is he really going to do that? I don't think so. I just don't think so. I don't know what fantasy we're living in. Donald Trump is not going to revolutionize settlement on Wall Street. Now, Ham just said he's talking to some people close to Trump. Maybe I'm wrong. But let's assume Trump does something. In my opinion, he's not going to force settlement on every trade overnight. And he's not going to put people in jail. If I were Trump, I would start with Europe. And I would say you've got to, if you start selling and trading in the U.S. markets, you've got to keep a record of all those trades. And if you start a market in Frankfurt with 1 share out of Chicago, and then you flood the markets with counterfeit shares, and that results in trillions of dollars going offshore without paying taxes, we're going to come after you for the taxes. I think that's where he should start. He should turn on the IRS to go after the trillions of dollars and then put people in jail. I think the SEC should go after the CEOs. They're never going to go against the Lynn Partners or the Yorkvilles. They're never going to go after them. They'll just settle with them. And that's all they've ever done. They went after the Kramers dozens of times. The Smiths, sorry. The Smiths at Geneva Roth Holdings. Dozens of times. And nothing happens. I don't think it ever will. They need to go after the CEOs. The CEO should not be allowed to sign a deal that's a toxic convertible note. The CEO should not be able to sign a deal that has warrants in it that in and of themselves become the hedge that allows counterfeit sales. They should put CEOs in prison. And that will stop this immediately. Then you've got to address what's really going on. There is no stock market. There is no capital formation in the public markets for micro caps and small cap companies. Zero. There's nothing. There are no investment banks. There are no trading desks. There are no research analysts. They're all in on the grift. So I think the single best thing Donald Trump could do, take over NASDAQ, take over the over-the-counter markets, fire everybody, and start an over-the-counter or a NASDAQ exchange for small cap and micro cap companies that's not run for profit, that's not run for the investment banks, that's not run for the Smiths at the hedge funds. That's run by a cabinet level post, make U.S. markets great again, and have rules. Maybe you do allow shorting, but maybe you don't allow rehypothecation, or maybe you only allow a stock to be lent out twice. But whatever the rule is, have the federal government police the markets. Otherwise, it's going to be endless. You guys are going to expect miracles, which will never come. And the banks, this all started basically under Bill Clinton when he said that Rubin, what was Rubin's first name? The head of Treasury under Clinton said, look, the market, Wall Street can police itself. That's got to stop. That's got to stop. But anyway. No, the SEC will not be different. The SEC will approve the finger dividend, but so what? There'll be a dividend, Billy. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. There'll be a dividend. Put the equity market on blockchain. Why do you think that's going to do anything? It's all simple answers without any thought. The entire equities market in the United States, every trade, there's a record of. But Ann Wagner doesn't want you to see it because Goldman Sachs owns Ann Wagner. So if it's on blockchain, why are you going to be allowed to see it? There's no evidence that even if it's on blockchain, you're going to be able to track the trades. How does blockchain stop? Okay, so on blockchain, I borrow from you, Middle Ground, 1,000 shares of Apple. It's on blockchain. Now that apple's long in my account. It's on blockchain. Well, as an owner of that apple, I have a right to lend that apple out. So I lend it out. That's on blockchain. I don't see how blockchain changes this. What has to be done is government has to grow a pair of balls and stand up to the banks. The banks own our government. They own our regulators. There is enough information today to enforce the rules. Just putting it on blockchain, so what? You got to enforce settlement. You got to enforce transparency. That's one side of it. The other side of it is derivatives. Derivatives are a massive lever. And if derivatives are not, as you put it, on blockchain, or if derivatives are not monitored at all in a marketplace, which they're not, you can have derivatives trading, so your shares are traded on blockchain, whatever shares you have. But Goldman Sachs writes a derivative contract with Smith, Smith, and Smith of some hedge fund out of Chicago. And it's leveraged. They sell, let's say that your position on blockchain is 1 million shares, $1 million worth of shares. They sell derivatives against your ownership of 100 million. It's not on blockchain. It's a derivative. Do you think that's going to have an impact on the price of your stock? Of course it is. It's what they do with silver. It's what they do with, they want to do it with houses. They want to do it with everything. I just don't put it on blockchain. I don't. You have to take the banks out of our government. You have to take the hedge funds out of our government. You have to take the criminals out of our government. That's what you have to do. I don't know that that's trying to remember. I can't remember if he repealed it or just eviscerated it. But you're right. It was Bill Clinton that broke down the barrier between investment banking and commercial banking. But it was really Barack Obama who finished the job when he allowed Goldman Sachs to survive. And of course, George W. Bush allowed what was that football player with the bald head that ran Goldman Sachs? He got to go into the White House and look at his competitors' books and cherry pick which assets he wanted to buy. And on top of that, under Obama, they put Goldman, Merrill, and some of it started under Bush, but Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, they made these banks insured by the FDIC. And then they allowed the risk to go out in the netherworld of hedge funds and broker dealers, and compliance disappeared. And that was the sleight of hand. And you expect by putting it on blockchain, it's going to change that. What they've done is a handful of men get all of the profits of the banking system with leverage, and they do it with paper trading. They turn everything into a bet on which cockroach is going to cross the floor more quickly. Everything's a bet. It's all leveraged. They manipulate it so they have advantages, and they do it on stocks. They do it in bonds. They do it in precious metals. They do it in real estate. They do it in automobiles. They turn every loan into a bet. They do it across the entire economy, everything. And then when they lose, they come crying to their mommy, and they go to the government and they get bailed out. And we argue and we get upset about whether it's Hillary or it's Biden or it's Trump or it's Romney. But behind the scenes, that's what the banks do. The banks benefit from runaway government spending, runaway government war, runaway government printing of money. And when they could convince Bill Clinton, the third way, the great compromiser with no moral values at all, when they could convince him that the government didn't need to regulate them, banks, and then when the banks corrupted his wife and the banks corrupted the Democratic Party, and the banks corrupted part of the Republican Party too, by the way. And then the hedge funds, the bank prop desks went out and became hedge funds, and the concentration of wealth, the hedge funds are bigger than the banks. And the hedge funds, they're all honest, honorable men. We know that. They're upstanding. They contribute, they donate, they believe in God, and they're tremendous people. I mean, you would not want any other situation than the guy Smith at BlackRock, or the guy Smith at SAC, or the guy Smith at Goldman Sachs. You wouldn't want any other situation. These are good, honorable men. So are they all honorable men. But they run the government. They run the regulators. They run the law firms. They run the brokerage firms. They are the clients of the brokerage firms. They are the clients of the law firms. Donald Trump's not going to change it. Patrick Byrne understands how blockchain can fix some of the stock market criminality better than anyone. You know what? I'm not gonna argue with you. You're right. The 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 sheer genius of your solution overwhelms me. I can't argue with you. Can't argue with you. Look, I've watched Patrick Byrne quite a bit. He's extremely smart. Um, he also has an incredible memory. He can memorize a whole deck of cards. It's incredible. And I don't. I just am going to say you're right. I'm tired of being. I'm tired of being. It's easier to go alone. Blockchain will solve everything. Trump's going to solve everything. And we should just keep chasing the next short squeeze. Wow. Trump is going to try to close out carried interest. Wow. That's huge. Now, if he gets something like that done, Wall Street's going to be pissed off at him. All right. I don't know. Guys, maybe I should just stop doing these lives. I don't find it constructive at all. I enjoy interviewing CEOs. I enjoy bringing ideas to you. And I just suggest you guys listen to Junk Savvy on X. She runs a fantastic open discussion, and I think that's a good place to go. I'll do the lives with Ham. I think I love his energy, and I learn from Ham. And I do think his ideas are good sometimes. Nobody's ideas are good all the time. And I see a value in having Ham on with you guys. I see no value in my discussions with you anymore. It's everything's obtuse. I don't try to get into arguments, but there are people who just like to argue every stupid thing. I simply do not see. I guess the example would be the gold standard or the mercantile system. There's a reason why the world economy moved off the gold standard. And it's because it's too constrictive. It's too, there's not enough gold. But more importantly, the government can't do things to juice the economy or to probably to a strict libertarian. The government oversteps its bounds. But if you have a strict gold standard, you can't do that. You can't fight wars necessarily. There's a whole lot of flexibility offered once governments go off the gold standard. And that's what blockchain is. Blockchain is a straitjacket, just like the gold standard. And I don't think, just because you say, okay, let's do everything on blockchain, I don't think that changes regulators looking the other way. I don't think that changes how banks manipulate situations. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Big JR is going to nail me on my knowledge of the carried interest. I'm just looking in the story. They describe it. Carried interest deduction allows investment managers to pay lower capital gains tax rate on the income they receive for their work as compensation. Well, okay. I guess that's my understanding of the carried interest. When you run a hedge fund, you charge 2%, 20%. Obviously, if you're, one of the best hedge funds, you can charge more. When you're out of the gate, you charge less. But let's just use 2%, 20%. The 2% is for overhead. So it's pretty safe to assume that your accountant can find expenses to offset the 2%. I suppose if you're huge, part of that is income. But anyway, let's ignore the 2%. That's the annual fee. The 20% is the portion of the profits that you earn, sometimes above a hurdle rate. Sometimes it's just straight out. If the hedge fund makes 15% for the year, I get 20%. So I get 3 points, and the investor gets 12 points. Well, the carried interest, as I understand it, I never got big enough. I did set up some of my investment vehicles this way, but I was never big enough to run into this for myself. But because my compensation is tied to performance, they call it a carried interest. The carried part refers to the fact that the investor puts up all the money. I'm not necessarily putting up any money. Although Big JR, there are so many hybrids. There's a company that I've raised money for where the founders do put up a portion of the capital as a way of showing the investors that they're in at the same level with the investors. However, they still get a priority return. So it's a bit of a sleight of hand, but it's all disclosed. It's better than most funds do. But the carried part of the carried interest is that the investor pays 100% of the costs of the investments. The investor is paying for the overhead. The investor/investors are paying for the ownership of every investment in the vehicle. So the cost is carried by the investors. The carried interest if I'm the manager, is the investor is carrying my share. So it's defined as 20% of the profits. So if we just knew there were going to be profits, just assume they're going to be profits, the investor is paying 100% for 80% of the revenue. And I'm being carried by the investor for 20%. That's where that term carried interest comes in. But here's the thing, the way it's written, in my understanding, is because this is the argument they got across, because my income is at risk, because I'm technically risking my entire income, which I guess the investor is as well, aren't they? They tax it, they tax mine. They got the deal that they got across is they tax mine at long-term capital gains. Now, I don't know, Big JR, if you took your income during the year, what would happen? But typically you calculate that 20% at the end of the year. And my understanding is the rule is that 20% or 30% is taxed at long-term capital gains. And with the Obamacare, that's 23.8%. It used to be 20%. So if Trump goes after that carried interest and that's taxed at regular income tax brackets, that's a huge change. I guess there would be two ways of doing it. You would tax it at the most onerous. You would tax any income as income, right? You would take away the holding period altogether. In other words, if my interest is carried for 20% and all I have to prove is that my 20% was carried for a year and a day, then it's long term. Perhaps if it's less than that, it's at short term or income tax rates. Maybe that would be the compromise. But I don't think that would accomplish any goal that Trump is trying to get. I think Trump really wants to reduce income taxes and find alternative sources of income. I don't think it'll pass. How can he go up against Goldman Sachs lobbyists and SAC lobbyists? This is how Warren Buffett talks about it, but if you got, and I knew one of these guys, Big JR, I went to his house several times in Dubai. He was young. He had hot chicks. He had a yacht. I think, if I remember correctly, he may have done drugs. I can't remember. But he drank. I drank then too. And he lived a pretty nice life, very nice life. He had a background at Republic Bank, and then he started his own hedge fund. So what he did, he raised $50 million, which nowadays doesn't sound like a lot of money. But just imagine, you go out, you raise $50 million and you charge 2%. That's $1 million a year to be on your yacht, to travel, to have an office, to do whatever, $1 million a year. And then you trade the portfolio, and you make it. It's got a gate so that people can't get out right away. So I don't know. You're going to have 50 million for 7 years. People sign up for that all the time, and then you get a percentage of the profits. And then, of course, I'm trying to remember the terminology. Some funds have a hurdle rate. So if the investor gets 8% or less, maybe the advisor gets nothing or gets a reduced amount, and only gets 20% above 8%, say. The other thing that funds do, and this is the one I can't remember the terminology. I don't think it's waterfall. Anyway, the mechanics of it is, if I'm managing 50 million and in the first year I return 20%, that's great. If in the second year I lose 5%, the third year there may be a clause, and this is what I can't remember what it's called, whereby I have to catch up that 5% before I can earn any money as the advisor. In other words, there's what is that term? I can't remember the term. So anyway, there's all different ways of doing it, Big JR. But the carried interest, eliminating the carried interest deduction has been a long time priority of people on the left. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question. I think it'd be very hard to change it, because all you would have to do is start subdividing. Let's say I'm managing a portfolio, and right now I get the benefit of the carried interest. If they change the rules, I would just have to subdivide the portfolio, I think, into several acquisition LLCs. Let's say my portfolio consisted of 20 companies. If I broke it down into 20 sub LLCs and then made sure that maybe I would have to put $100 in each LLC for my ownership. If I then made sure that I did not sell or book the profit before a year's time, that would be taxed at long-term capital gains. Where it would get tricky is in trading. Big JR, I know you know this, but hedge funds can trade, and I believe it's 60% of their profits, even if it's in a day, are taxed at long-term capital gains. They got that through Congress, something like that. I think it's going to be really hard to get those votes. Well, yeah, make it government regulated. But boat bum, the thing is, it is government regulated. So I think, and maybe this is where the gentleman who said blockchain might be right. If to the extent you can make a marketplace with very simple rules, which is transparent, and the police men and women have to enforce the rules, then maybe there is no cheating, you know. It's a matter of will. I just can't get it across enough. And it happens. I'm not as much a historian as I wish I were. I wish I had read that husband and wife's history of Rome, the Durants, or was it somebody else? But every empire ends up declining with financialization. And that's what we're in here in the United States now. Yes, we have an economy. Yes, we have agriculture. Yes, we can make weapons. But apparently we can't make Jeeps. We can't make tanks. I don't know. I've got to study that more. But a lot of our drugs are made in China. Everything's made elsewhere except for financial manipulation. And it happens in every human endeavor. Apparently it happened in Rome, and I'm sure it's in the Bible. I'm sure it's in, it's easier to move money. Look, these guys that made the money with these funds, $10 trillion. You don't have to charge 2% on 10 trillion to make a ton of money. I like Power Nickel. I wanted to talk to that guy. I like Power Nickel. Big JR, I don't know if I'm describing the carried interest exactly, because I think there's complexities and there's lawyers and all that, but I think I got the essence of it. Hey, there you go. I told you guys this. Here's the headline. Largest buy imbalance in history. Retail investors, euphoria breaks all records, steamrolling bearish hedge funds. That's what could make the markets go up 25, 30, 40%, is when the hedge funds have to cover. Amazon reverses 7%. There can also be a change in leadership. So I guess Amazon didn't report good earnings? Hmm. Woman 24 snaps her hip in half. Doing an exercise practiced by millions. Oh my gosh, I don't want to read that. Let me see. I may sign off because I don't know, guys. I don't like being negative. Let's see what Jim Rickards is saying. Trade wars are heating up. It's too long. You guys will get bored. That article's too long. Maybe I'll get bored with it. I shouldn't blame you guys. Kash Patel's committee vote is delayed until next week. All right. Let's see. When is the dividend? Okay. Finger Motion announced a dividend 1 for 10 as a warrant or as a special dividend a year ago now. It's basically a year ago, almost a year ago. They presented that as they must to the SEC for approval. The SEC had, as is normal, a series of questions which Finger Motion responded to immediately every time the questions came. Then, just I guess to annoy everyone, the auditors for Finger Motion resigned. Finger Motion in September had to hire a brand new auditing firm. So the SEC had not approved the dividend at that time and could not approve the dividend if the company didn't have fully compliant audited financials. So when a new auditor is hired, they have to go back 2 years. And that's what the auditor did. Now, we just got word through, I think, an 8K the other day, I think 2 days ago, that or maybe it was a filing of the 10Q. I can't remember. But anyway, Finger Motion made a filing of 2024's annual report. So that clearly is a restated, I don't know if they had to change anything, but it is the annual report being refiled under the auspices of the new auditor. So we now have evidence that the first year of the audit looks like that has been completed. Has the second year's audit been completed? I would guess no, because the fourth quarter hasn't ended. But I could be wrong on that. I really don't know. But if I were the SEC, if I were Finger right now, the end of February is in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Might as well wait for those audited numbers to be complete before there's an approval on the dividend. So if I had to guess, the SEC will wait for 2025 audited numbers, which could take until the middle of April to announce. I don't know about filing. And if you guys will recall, back in November and December and even October, I was warning that I thought the dividend could go well into the first year before this year, the first quarter, before it's approved. I think I may have said April, May, March. I think I said April. But whatever, you can go listen. I wouldn't waste my time to go back and listen. And it, again, I get all this negative feedback, blowback. Don't know what I'm talking about. I'm wrong. And I guess it just gets so draining. But I'm not complaining. I'm just in a bad mood. So anyway, NSA, my opinion, the dividend will not be approved until after 2025's annual report, which 2025 for finger motion ends on February 28th. That gives the auditor 45 days to make the filing with the SEC a regular way or sooner. So I think that'll be April 15th. Me personally, I don't think you're going to see the dividend approved until May 1st. It might come sooner. It might come sooner. Why do we focus on it? Why do we ask about it every day? There can only be a couple of reasons. One is you want to sell finger motion and you want to make sure you get the dividend before you sell the stock. Okay, I can understand that. I think you're going to have to hold finger motion for another 60 days in order to get the dividend. That's my opinion, if I had to make a judgment call right now. The only other reason to keep asking about the dividend is that you believe that the dividend, once it's approved and issued, is going to cause a short squeeze. I don't think it is. But, okay, it's possible. That's the whole purpose of it. The last time they issued a dividend, it nearly caused something like that. So, and I may be confusing it with GTII as I'm talking, but yeah, it might work, but I'm not optimistic for that. It's a gimmick. It's what the law firm Mobius, Dubious, and Dickham came up with years ago. And Mobius, Dickham, and Dubious works for the bad guys too. So I don't think it's going to catch anybody out. I'm sorry to be negative. I'm just worn out. I'm worn out. All right. It is 5 o'clock. I'm going to sign out. I appreciate everybody listening. I'll try to be more upbeat. Bill Michael, if you can email me on fairandbalanced@gmail.com. Tell me what you want me to say as a spokesman for finger motion. Only the positives, only the gloss, only the rose-colored glasses. I'll do it. And you don't even have to pay me. That way you don't have to be alarmed that I'm not the spokesman for finger motion. All right, I'll talk to everybody tomorrow. Peace, love, happiness.